Ow! Greetings, YouTube.
Another series of reviews for another TV series that I'm quite excited about. This one is Defiance. If you haven't heard of it, then, well, guys, you really missed out. Okay, it's kind of interesting how the Sci-Fi channel, I refuse to call it that stupid SYFY thing. It's just dumb. But it's interesting that the Sci-Fi channel for a long time used to be just a wreckage of dashed hopes, I guess. But after it went under new management, it had very few shows that a lot of people were terribly interested in. Now, in recent years, there have been a few shows that have been popping up on it that are actually not that bad. But I think that after they got rid of the spin-off series from Battlestar Galactica, Caprica, and also Stargate Universe, which, well, to me was just really not good enough to be Stargate. They were trying to create a whole new Battlestar Galactica. I thought the whole channel had kind of gone to crap. But lo and behold, they're starting to make really interesting shows again. And Defiance is one of them. And I'm not even going to say just interesting. I'm going to even venture so far as to say very daring. Because it's become a multimedia thing. And there have been other attempts by other shows in the past to do certain things like this. But this is the first time you have a show made at the same time with an MMO that has been made to follow a parallel plot taking place on the same world that the player has an opportunity to get into. Now, I'm not going to be talking about the MMO. If you want to see some of the reviews of it, there's a plethora of them on YouTube. I recommend Angry Joe, even though Angry Joe wasn't exactly all that thrilled about it because he had some issues installing the game. I actually beta tested the game. It just didn't interest me enough to stay with it, but later on I may actually pick up a copy and play it a little bit more after they iron out some of the issues. But that's neither here nor there. I'm here to talk about Defiance, the TV series. I had first heard about this, last year when they had talked about some new series on the Sci-Fi channel about Earth being completely changed and the human race having to live alongside these alien races. And over the months that passed, little by little on the website and on the Sci-Fi Channel's site, they gave more and more information about the series, which I was really glad about. Okay, so backstory. This league of 7 alien races comes to Earth, and they're called the Votanus Collective. Or Votans for short. And that's one of the coolest things about the series, that the Votans are not just one race, but 7 different races. And I'll get to that in a second. So, they come to Earth looking for a new home because their star system was destroyed. As the background information that I found on Wikipedia says, was destroyed in a stellar collision. And, well, that is actually true backstory stuff, because I've actually been reading up on it too. So anyway, their home system was destroyed in a stellar collision. They've been searching the stars for a new home, so they get to Earth, not realizing that the Earth was populated. So, yeah, the human race are stuck with about over 1 billion aliens up in space in hypersleep, waiting for a chance to come down to a planet that's already inhabited by probably over 7 billion humans. Not much room to go around. So negotiations are long, slow, and painful. A few aliens get a few bits of land here and there in other countries, but not enough to really get the people what they need. But everything comes to the whole situation is a strained one, and everything gets boiled over after an alien emissary is killed by a human supremacist. That sets off what's called the Pale Wars. This lengthy years and years of war with the humans versus the Votans. And somewhere along the line, the Ark ships that brought the Votans to Earth are destroyed. And these ships are massive. They're the size of, and they're like the size of a small city. And so the wreckage of the ships crash lands to Earth. Now the thing is that aboard the ship is some really advanced and very strange tech, partly terraforming technology. Basically, this terraforming technology crashes onto the surface and begins to restructure and alter the surface of the Earth, not only tectonically, but also biologically, having brought with them samples of life from the Votan star system. So, not only is the surface of the Earth completely altered, but also life on Earth is completely altered with mutated strands of plants and animals. Some native to the Votan system, some native to Earth, and others just crazy mutations brought about from the terraforming technology. And after this particular point, no one knows how or why the ship suddenly blew up. But not too long after this point, all the fighting armies pretty much exhaust themselves and declare peace, seeing how most of the human race has been wiped out in this restructuring, this terraforming, and the few survivors that are left out of the Votans and the humans are pretty much now trying to survive on a planet that it resembles nothing like anything they're familiar with. It's still Earth, but not an Earth that we know of. You'll see weird, strange plants growing up looking like a cross between a spruce tree and a palm tree, strange colored plants and giant mushroom-like plants. It's really cool the way that the special effects guys did some of the background scenes in this story. But anyway, so now humans and the Votans have to learn to survive on a planet that, well, it's not unknown to both of them. And so that's where the story begins. Let me see. It's basically a story about a guy named Joshua Nolan, who is an Ark hunter in his own right. Now, Ark hunters are actually presented in the video games. These people who actually go and look for crash sites where pieces of the Ark, because these Arks are so huge, they form sort of a belt around the Earth. If any of you ever watched Cowboy Bebop, you see how when the moon was destroyed and it left sort of like a ring around the Earth where like moon rocks are constantly crashing onto the surface, so the human race has to live underground. Not quite so in the Defiance universe, but think of a big belt of wreckage around the planet, and every so often pieces of these Ark ships fall to the ground, but they contain some really amazing and very valuable tech. So there are people now who go and look for these Arks when they have an Ark fall event and try to get to be the first to collect the technology that's aboard. So the story surrounds Joshua Nolan, a guy he's an Ark hunter, and he ends up he's adopted an alien daughter, and right now her name suddenly escapes me. I was trying to find the name of the person. All of a sudden, I'm just totally blanking on it. Anyway, so after an incident where he gets a very valuable piece of technology from an Ark fall event, he and his daughter run into spirit riders. They're one of the Votans, composed one of their races, the Arathians. Before I go any further, I forgot I wanted to mention the different races that compose the Votans. You have the Castathans. They look human, except they have pale white skin and yellow eyes and white hair. They look like albinos, or, well, I guess vampires without the fangs. They have a very striated caste-based system, very strict caste-based system. And they have a tendency to be very snooty. So, though they get along fairly well with humans. Then you have the Indigenes, which are probably one of my favorite races. They also have very pale skin, but their faces are almost featureless. Even their ears don't protrude. They don't have lips, per se. And their skin on their faces, it looks like it's segmented almost like scales, but hexagonal shaped. And also, these are basically the super scientists of the Votans. They're the ones who created the Ark ships. Their technology is amazingly advanced, and they also have cybernetic implants inside their bodies unique to each indigene. They're really an interesting little species. I can't wait to see more about them. Then you have the Erathians. They look sort of human, except they have sort of a more protruding forehead and a wider bridge on the nose. And they tend to live in tribal-based societies with very loose affiliations with each other, but tend to be really quick on the trigger. Many of them don't exactly like humans all that much, at least not in the area of Defiance. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to say, Defiance is actually what used to be St. Louis in this story. You can still see the arch. It's really pretty cool. I can't believe I forgot to say that. So anyway, the next in the line is the Liberata. They are very short and squat. And, I hate saying this, but they're almost pig-like. They tend to be sort of the working class of all the Votans. They have actually kind of the information that's given about them that I got off of Wikipedia actually has a interesting and kind of sad story behind them. They kind of put themselves into certain positions as sort of a penance for being too greedy and having a disaster happen because of their greed. But they haven't gotten that much into that in the story. The next on the line is the Sensoth, which are really interesting looking. They're very, very big, tall, and muscular. They look like upright, walking, giant, hefty orangutans. They haven't really said that much about them. One of the characters in Defiance actually uses one as hired muscle. Pretty interesting scene. Now, one race that they haven't shown yet is the Gulani. They're energy based, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what these guys are all about. And then the last one is the Volga. They are another sort of cybernetic race. They have integrated weapons, but these things are not pleasant at all. They're very, very, very warlike. As a matter of fact, in the information I've gotten on off of Wikipedia, they really kind of snuck onto the Ark ships, or somebody brought them on to get away from the system. But they're not very pleasant creatures at all. They are very, very warlike and are a pain in the behind for humans and Votans alike. So, anyway, so what happens is that the main character for Joshua, he gets a piece of alien tech from the Arkfall and tries to escape the spirit riders in a forest, but his daughter is shot, and so they're rescued by the guards that are around Defiance and are brought into the city. And as circumstances play out in the city, he begins to kind of like the town a little bit more and more, because they have some very interesting and very how can I put this? Very endearing people. You have the mayor of Defiance, and she's actually the sister of the owner of the local whorehouse. You have, her name is Amanda Rosewater. You see here, we have, oh, and by the way, the name of Joshua's daughter is Neria. And she's the Erathian I was telling you about. You have DecKrash, who's a Castathan, who basically kind of runs the slightly less than legal operations in Defiance. He's sort of a mob boss. Has a little bit of a Napoleon complex, though. Let me see. Then you have Shtamatar, who's DecKrash's wife. She kind of wears the pants in the family, though she does it in a very underhanded manner, so she doesn't wound her husband's pride. It's kind of funny to watch, actually. Let me see. And the mayor's sister is her name is Kenya Rosewater. Amanda Rosewater is the mayor. The mayor's sister is Kenya Rosewater. She runs the local whorehouse. Let me see. You have Rafe McCauley, who owns a mine that's very close to Defiance, and he and actually DecKrash are two of the pillars of the community in a sense. They're the two richest families, and there's sort of a big feud thing going on between those families. Both the fathers hate each other's guts, and the funny thing is that their children are actually in love, though I'm not seeing the name of the son and the daughter. The son is the son of DecKrash, and the daughter is the daughter of Rafe McCauley. So anyway, those are kind of the main characters going on. So you see a lot of really interesting things happening because these people are in very key positions in the town where they know what's going on. They they're privy to a lot of very clandestine, sometimes and very valuable information, and they basically all got their pulse in the city, and so Joshua goes into the city and kind of gets endeared by a lot of the people, but he doesn't like setting his feet down. But through a series of circumstances involving a murder, he gets thrust into this because of his own skills and uncovers some sort of conspiracy whereby the gate that surrounds the city, which protects them from the craziness outside, gets destroyed, and they have an entire division of Volge going towards the city to attack. So it falls into his hands to defend the city, and circumstances in the end thrust him into the position of becoming the city's new sheriff, because the original sheriff was actually accidentally killed in a bar fight where Rafe McCauley kind of went a little bug nuts because of his son being killed, and he blamed Daytak's son for the murder, which didn't happen, which he did not do. Though I don't want to spoil everything for the show, I really highly recommend you go and check it out. It has a really interesting Mad Max meets the Wild West kind of feel to it, with a really colorful cast and some of the most interesting alien creatures I've seen. The characters come off as very genuine, from the mayor all the way down to the mayor's assistant, and even the doctor in the town, Doc Yule, who's an indigene. That was the reason why I kind of liked him. She has a very interesting personality. It's like, she reminds me a little bit of Dr. McCoy from Star Trek, kind of gruff but also kind of endearing. Because she's very terse and knows how to turn a phrase. It's kind of a delight to watch. They haven't. It's kind of difficult doing these kinds of reviews for for a series that I've only watched for that was only a 2 hour long pilot. So I can't really say much except that I really liked the way it opened up, and thus far I've seen a lot of people really enjoyed this series, and I'm really looking forward to seeing where they go with it. As I said, this is a real daring move because they've released a new series that has not been tested, and at the same time they've released an MMO that tells a parallel story to the series. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where this happens. I really wish the people who created the best. If the other episodes are as good as this first episode was, and I think this series has a really promising future. I'm just hoping that the Sci-Fi executives don't end up doing something stupid and trying to change it into something it doesn't want to be. Throughout history, a lot of TV shows that, especially science fiction gets the worst kind of flack. But a lot of shows, science fiction especially, have been victims of TV executives who just are completely out of touch and only see dollar signs. For instance, Michael Straczynski's series, what was that one? Oh my god, Crusade. It was canceled by TBS because he didn't want to make the series a little bit sexier but they offered these changes that they wanted to make, and Straczynski said, no, you're turning it into Baywatch in space, and they canceled it. And of course, I don't even want to get started on Fox's habit of just canceling so many shows. I mean, I think it was a crime for them to cancel Terra Nova, because that show actually had a lot of potential and really had a great ending to the first season, which left you wondering what was going to happen next. And unfortunately, it looks like Netflix has not picked it up. But I'm sincerely hoping it doesn't go the way of those series, that the Sci-Fi Channel sees the value of this, and that they don't that they continue to make good, strong stories, and that this series has a good, solid following. If any of you out there are really big science fiction fans, this is one I highly recommend you check out if you haven't seen it yet. It looks like it's got a lot going for it, and I mean, if you like that kind of post-apocalyptic thing, you like alien races and really interesting technology, and from what I've seen, it's a very character-driven story. So all that can weave together very, very well. I'm hoping that's what happens, and I think that if any of you out there like that kind of thing, go and check out Defiance. I'd give it a try. See what you think. A lot of people seem to like it thus far. But I also want to know what you guys think. So leave some comments down below. Tell me if you liked it or not. As always, comment, rate, subscribe. If you're going to comment, make sure you keep it civil. Trolls burned in effigy, as I always say. And of course, as I always say, everyone, until next time, this is DecKrash, better known as Brandon. As always, stay lucky and stay blessed. Oh, and before I go, I actually had made another video, but I had some issues with my camera on my computer. I'm going to try to do it again. So anyway, guys, I'll talk to you all later. Stay lucky and stay blessed, everyone. Goodbye.